America's best days are yet to come. That's because conservatives like you know and live the values our great country was built on. The Heritage Foundation exists to make sure your voice is heard in the D.C. swamp each day, shining the light on a bright future. The Heritage Foundation stands for your values and won't give up the fight because they know you never will. Paid for by the Heritage Foundation.
He's here. He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Well, it is truly a sad day here for those of us who knew Michael Reagan. Truly a sad day. I just learned before coming on the air that he passed away on Sunday in Los Angeles, 80 years old. I don't know anything about it. I'm reading here from Newsmax. We're saddened to learn that Michael Reagan, a founding Newsmax analyst on our network and columnist for Newsmax.com, passed away. He was the eldest son of President Reagan and the late Jane Wyman, was a noted commentator, syndicated radio host, and best-selling author. He was adopted as a baby by Ronald Reagan and Jane Wyman. His wife, Colleen, and daughters, Cameron Reagan and Ashley Reagan Dunster, said he was called home to be with the Lord and described him as a man who meant so much to all who knew and loved him. He certainly did. And as he got older, he became a man of deep, deep faith. Deep faith. He was adopted by his father and Wyman shortly after his birth, 1945 in L.A., he authored several best-selling books, and they point out he was engaging. He was just a great guy. He really was. He became a very strong supporter of President Trump over time, too. And he defended his father. You know, he had Ron Reagan, Patty Reagan. Patty Reagan defended her father, too, even though she was still is a leftist. So is Ron Reagan, defended his father less so. But Mike Reagan was right there by his side all the time, defending him, supporting him. And he was a very, very good man. You know, as many people, when he was younger, he had issues and so forth, but he overcame them. And just a spectacular guy. So I'm literally shocked. I had no idea. And we lost another good one there. But we plow ahead. It's just a reminder why you want to try and live a good life. You want to have faith, believe in the good Lord. You want to do the best you can for your family and your country. You don't really want to be remembered as a bigot and a racist and a Christian hater and a Jew hater and all the rest of it. It's really nasty stuff. I've been exposed to things over the last 10 months, since I decided to really take on these neo-fascist, woke, Reich podcasters. I've been called things and have experienced things I never thought was possible. But I never give up. And I'm never going to give up. And those of you who've been with me through all of it, the millions and millions of you in this fantastic national town hall meeting with you, the great patriots, Mr. and Mrs. America out there, you've stood with me through thick and thin. And that's what gives you strength. The Internet's not my world. Thank God. It's not my world. I spent a few weeks there lately, and I'm glad it's not my world. Just all kind of filth. The good people are unfortunately outnumbered in many respects. And, they praise people and they denounce people. It's just very weird place. Most of you wouldn't like it. That's why most of you probably don't spend a lot of time on there. I want to continue with something that I started before the holidays, and that is the men who signed the Constitution of the United States. I'm not going to start from the beginning. I talked about a number of them, and I'm focused on the ones that you may have heard of and don't know much about, or maybe you never heard of them. So I'm not going to focus on Madison and Washington and Franklin and so forth. Some people believe Thomas Jefferson signed the Constitution. He was in Paris, France. He did not, even though he corresponded with Madison, and they were very, very, very tight. When Jefferson was elected president, Madison was his Secretary of State, so forth. And in the end, Jefferson supported the Constitution, even though a lot of those from the agrarian elements of the colonies opposed it. Excuse me. But let's continue with this, because it's something that you always tell me when you come up to me at a diner, at Costco, or book signing, that you want to hear more of. And so we, do about 5 or so. There were 39 only who signed the Constitution. Just 39. That's okay. But it had to be ratified by the state conventions. So it was supported throughout. It wasn't really a country then, throughout the colonies, and it became a country. George Clymer. Ever heard George Clymer? Ring a little bit of a bell? George Clymer was from Pennsylvania. He was raised by an uncle, growing up to be a successful businessman. I am reading from, really good magazine, Constitution of the United States. I actually don't even know who prepared it. From the makers of All About History. Clymer put his money where his mouth was when the revolution broke out, converting his gold to continental currency to help finance the struggle for independence. Most of these men who did that went broke. Hyman Solomon, I've talked to you about, from Poland, came in 1775, really when the revolution began. You could even date it before that if you wish. He put all his money on the line, and he died a man in deep debt, totally broke. He was owed money by our new government. He was owed money by Madison. He was owed money by others who he lent money to. They didn't have the money to pay him. He lost everything, and he died a pauper. I'll bet you never heard of him. Certainly won't hear of him from the neo-fascist woke Reich. They're too busy interviewing other people. How about Jared Ingersoll? Although a loyalist in the early years, he left America for Europe during the build-up to the Revolutionary War. He attended every session of the convention. He made little impact. But he supported the Constitution. How about Thomas Fitzsimmons? Also from Pennsylvania, After arriving in America as a teenager, he embarked on a successful career as a businessman. He saw service as a militia captain during the Revolution. He donated $5,000 of his own money to the cause of independence. $5,000 back then, folks, is like $100,000 today. I mean, it's not chump change. And these men put their lives on the line. They put all their money on the line, and they knew if they lost, they would be killed in the most gruesome way. The British were vicious. How about Thomas Mifflin, Pennsylvania? He was expelled from his Quaker church when he took a commission as a major in the Continental Army during the Revolutionary War. Served as a quartermaster general of the Army and an aide to George Washington. He acted as a chairman of the convention. And yet, most people know nothing about this man. Excuse me, cholera. One more. I talk about the unknowns of the little knowns. Again, I'm not going to get into all the greats, Franklin, so forth. I will one day, but right now I'm just covering those who you've probably never heard of before. One you should have heard of is Robert Morris. Morris, no relation to Gouverneur Morris, made a fortune from a contract to import weapons during the Revolutionary War, but his work helped keep the Continental Army in fight. One of the main men arming the colonialists. His financial touch deserted him later in life, and he died a broken and destitute man. Many of them did. Tomorrow I'll get to James Wilson. Wait till you hear about him. And others. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Folks, I have a question for you. Do you believe America's best days are still ahead? With the 250th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence coming up in less than a year, my friends at the Heritage Foundation are taking stock of the current situation, and they need your input. They've launched a survey on America's future to gauge how Americans feel right now about where we are as a nation and where we're headed in the next 250 years. You know, for decades, your American values have been under attack, but now, with President Trump's administration in office, we have an opportunity to turn the tide and usher in a new golden age for America. But the Heritage Foundation needs to hear from you. What policies do patriots like you most care about? What do you believe are the defining principles of America? What legacy do you believe we should pass on to the next generation? Please visit heritage.org/Levin today and share your feedback and help shape the future of America. That's heritage.org/LEVIN. Paid for by the Heritage Foundation. Let me ask you folks a question. Maduro's out without a single, as far as we know, injured American soldier. And he's responsible for all kinds of murder and mayhem in his own country, and certainly our country. The Democrat Party wanted him removed. They said they wanted him removed. Some of them even complained about Trump when he did. When he didn't remove him, didn't do anything about him, I think is what they were saying. Now, in what has to be one of the great and spectacular military operations, he's removed. Right in the middle of Caracas, Venezuela, surrounded by his military, surrounded personally by the Cuban military because they didn't trust his own military. I've read in 90 seconds' time or in 3 minutes' time, they were able to breach where he lived and remove him. Get him on a helicopter, he and Broomhilda, his wife, and off they went. There was a time in this country where there would be much unanimity around something like this. We'd be proud of our military, proud of our president, the commander-in-chief. Both parties would be celebrating it. Those who opposed what took place would pretty much keep their mouths shut. And then when you look, almost all the Democrats who've spoken on this have trashed it, raised questions about it, talk about impeachment, war crimes. Their militia, the Democrat Party militia, which is funded by communist China, some of it's funded by Qatar and so forth, they're in the streets by the thousands in our cities. The Marxists, homegrown, joined by Islamists, some homegrown, some imported. This country's in deep trouble. No matter who the president is, this is what's going on. And we're protecting these people. We're arguing that the Constitution protects their free speech right, protects their freedom of association. And they're now being joined by sort of a Hitlerian wing, not of the Republican Party, not of the conservative movement. It's its own creation that pops up about every 80 years in this country. It's these thugs, these goons, these neo-fascists who celebrate Hitler and Stalin, obsessed with trashing Jews and evangelical Christians who support the state of Israel, trashing our own country, promoting Islamism and Sharia law. I am proud of the fact, I've done a lot in my life, and I'm proud of the fact that 10 months ago, Mr. Producer, you can vouch for this, all my producers on Fox and so forth can vouch for this, I decided to take on this cancer, this poison of people who you used to admire. I used to admire. Not all, but some. I read somewhere on the internet, this is what I mean, how poisonous that platform is, on Twitter. Somebody came out today or yesterday and was talking about Islam and how radical it is and how nobody's confronting it and so forth. Nobody's talking about it. I said, my God, seriously? Do these people even read? Many of them on the internet? Do they even read a book? I have a whole chapter on this in On Power, and we've talked about this for years. This is one of the reasons I've decided I'm going to, at least for a period of time, enter the podcast world. Because I fear that too many people are literally unencumbered with knowledge. Literally unencumbered with it. And so people can ignore facts and history and information, but I'm at least going to provide it so they have an opportunity to embrace it and think about it. You people are the smartest people out there. You truly are. And you're great patriots. I'll be right back. We're coming upon the 250th birthday of the United States, and it has me thinking, what will America look like 250 years from now? My friends at the Heritage Foundation want to know what you think. What policies should America prioritize? What principles should carry us into the decades ahead? As America enters a new golden age, Heritage recognizes that this is the time to take stock and to be intentional about how we shape the future of America. And they can't do it without your input. So please go to heritage.org/LEVIN and let them know what you think is important. Without patriots like you stepping up and speaking up for what you believe in, America as we know it can't survive for another 250 years. Please go to heritage.org/Levin, heritage.org/LEVIN. Take the survey on America's future. This survey takes less than 10 minutes to complete, but it is critical for making sure that the America we pass on to future generations is an America we're proud of. Go to heritage.org/Levin today. That's heritage.org/LEVIN. Paid for by the Heritage Foundation.
Mark Levin, America's real influencer. Dial in 877-381-3811.
To Dan Abrams. I don't know what his jobs are anymore. I don't know if he's still at ABC. I know he has his own podcast. He's the founder of a site called Mediaite. I had thought early on that site would really be a very interesting site. I post from time to time. I denounce them from time to time, but it's time to step back and take a look and take a measure of things. You use your site to get hits. You use your site to get hits, Mediaite. There's a couple of folks over there who are actually quite good, but too many who aren't. But that beside everything else. What are you exactly, Dan Abrams? Are you a journalist? You a commentator? You Jerry Springer? What are you? But I'll tell you what I think. Why don't you stop highlighting these racists and bigots and Christian bashers and Jew haters? You're not fighting them or denouncing them. That would be different. That would be a good thing. You're motivating them. That's what you're doing. You're encouraging them. And I think it's a disgrace. I mean, the site is, except for a few exceptions, profoundly left-wing, profoundly anti-Trump, and so forth. That's your right and so forth. And you also have the right to keep platforming these racists and bigots and Christian bashers and Jew haters. But why do you keep doing it? That's what I want to know. Why do you keep doing it? Again, you're not fighting them. You're not denouncing them. You're not confronting them. You're highlighting them. You're motivating them. Why are you doing that? I think it's problematic. I also think it's symptomatic. I'm watching these clips at CNN. What is that woman's name again, Mr. Producer? Collins? What is her name? I can't remember. Caitlin Collins. She's praised as this great journalist who stands up to Trump. She used to work for conservative media outlets, including Tucker Carlson's The Daily Caller. But she has Marjorie Taylor Greene on. Marjorie Taylor Greene has resigned from the House of Representatives. She announced she was going to resign weeks ago. She accomplished absolutely nothing. She did absolutely nothing. She relentlessly threw turds in the swimming pool. She didn't advance the conservative cause. She advanced her own cause, whatever that was in a given moment. She exploited the Trump election. She sought to exploit him. Now she relentlessly attacks him, and so they put her on at CNN. Why? She was going out the door. She's now out the door. She has said nothing intelligent. They know exactly what she is and who she is. They know why she's doing it. But why would the media promote her? There's so many better members of the House of Representatives, politicians and candidates who are thoughtful, who have something intelligent to say, who are substantive. So here again, I talked about Mediaite, and they do that from time to time, but that's the exception to the rule. Same with CNN. It's the exception to the rule. That's why AOC has been promoted from the day she won a Democrat primary in New York City. That's why Bernie Sanders, he comes from Vermont, is relentlessly platformed and promoted by the media. For what? For what? That's why most of the so-called mainstream media, which is basically radical left corrupt, they're ideologues, really were not that aggressive in exposing Mamdani. It was mostly the New York Post, conservative independent media. But most of the networks, most of the rest of the media really weren't into it. The guy is a dyed-in-the-wall, out-of-the-closet, America-hating, Jew-hating, Marxist Islamist of the worst kind. Now he's the mayor. He's doing horrendous things, hideous things. On a side point, I would ask the media this. If a mayor thinks he has the right to steal your private property rights, which are protected under the federal Constitution, read it. Read it. A government can't take your property without just compensation, the market value of your property. That's not the plan that Mamdani and the rest of his comrades have. So if you're able to violate that part of the Bill of Rights, I presume the media are not going to be upset. Just to be consistent, if he starts taking over or shutting down newspapers, right? Because one part of the Bill of Rights you may think is more important than another, but that's not what the framers felt after the Bill of Rights were adopted, after the Constitution was adopted. They have a problem with that? Of course they do, because that's their self-interest. But property rights are property rights. James Madison wrote about it at great length. I've written about it myself. Your property right in physical property is your human right. It's your human property. You have a property right in physical things, a property right in intellectual things, a property right in expression, a property right in beliefs. Private property rights, whether it's real estate or something else, it's all one and the same. It's the same thing. How do you get private property? How do most of you get private property? You earned it. Well, what do you mean you earned it? You made enough money. You worked hard. You spent your intellectual and physical labor, your time on this earth, creating enough wealth for yourself and your family to accumulate things. That house you own, that car you own, is a reflection of your labor, of your human rights, your private rights, your property. It matters. When somebody talks about the warmth of the community, what community are they talking about? Who's in charge of this community? Everybody and nobody? These are slogans. The warmth of the community. There is no warmth of the community. There's an iron fist of government. And the more centralized it becomes and the more powerful it becomes, the less rights and liberty you have. This is as old as man himself. These people reject the Enlightenment. They reject Judeo-Christian values. That's why they embrace Islamism and Marxism, which I've said for years, and I've written the phrase, are incompatible with Americanism, are incompatible with America's founding, are incompatible with the Declaration in the Constitution. How come nobody talks about this stuff? I talk about it till I'm blue in the face. I write about it till I'm, till my hand falls off my arm. These people are attacking you. They're attacking your basic humanity. The collective dehumanizes you. The collective diminishes what you've created. Everybody can't be famous, thank God. Everybody can't be a politician, thank God. You need a plumber, you need an electrician, you need people who deliver goods, truck drivers, delivery people. These are the people who make everything work. The mechanics. The list is a long one. The people who put food on the shelves. The people who grow the food and package the food. The people who are in construction in one form or another. Emergency personnel when you need help. The American people are a good people. The best. The greatest. And you earn a living. You don't want welfare. And when you earn a living, you have a right to keep most of what you earn from your intellectual and physical labor. You have a limited time on the face of this earth. I wrote about it in Liberty and Tyranny. You have a limited time on the face of this earth. And you spend a tremendous amount of that time working. That is what you do to produce things, to take care of your family, to acquire things, and for some punk born in Uganda to great wealth who's never lifted his finger in a real job to get elected to public office and then think by getting 51, 52% of the vote that for the people in the community of New York, he can just destroy everything. Take anything he wants. Ensure you're not secure by undermining the NYPD and the commissioner. Force you to listen 5 times a day to a religious call to prayer. One religion. Who denounces you because you're white. Who denounces you because you're Jewish or Christian. Who denounces everything that's come before, everyone who's come before, who's built this great country. He doesn't have a member of his family who's fought in any war to protect this country, let alone died in any war to defend this country. He doesn't have a member of his family that has put on the blue to defend his city, who's died defending his city. He's a taker. He's the worst of the welfare recipients. He's a multimillionaire. Bernie Sanders is a multimillionaire. George Soros is a multi-billionaire. I've never seen a poor imam either, while I'm at it. I've never seen a poor head of any Arab state either, while I'm at it. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Folks, I have a question for you. Do you believe America's best days are still ahead? With the 250th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence coming up in less than a year, my friends at the Heritage Foundation are taking stock of the current situation, and they need your input. They've launched a survey on America's future to gauge how Americans feel right now about where we are as a nation and where we're headed in the next 250 years. You know, for decades, your American values have been under attack, but now, with President Trump's administration in office, we have an opportunity to turn the tide and usher in a new golden age for America. But the Heritage Foundation needs to hear from you. What policies do patriots like you most care about? What do you believe are the defining principles of America? What legacy do you believe we should pass on to the next generation? Please visit heritage.org/Levin today and share your feedback and help shape the future of America. That's heritage.org/LEVIN. Paid for by the Heritage Foundation. You know, people come into this country, they haven't lifted a finger to build it, to defend it, to support it, to contribute to it. They attack it. They attack our history. They attack our economic system. They attack the people whose families have, now and in the past, created this fantastic society like no man has ever seen before. And I'm sick and damn tired of it. Or we have people that go to college and they are brainwashed by these Marxist Islamists, these evil, tenured professors. They turn on their families, they turn on their country, they turn on their faith. They join together, they're in the streets. They're all over the internet. Some of them are podcasters. Since when did a 19-year-old know how to run the country? Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not against 19-year-olds, but there are places and things and experience and so forth and so on. So if a 19-year-old is dictating how the rest of us should live, is that okay with you? That's what goes on in the ether out there. They attack, quote unquote, the boomers. I don't even know what the hell a boomer is. I don't talk this way. I don't categorize people this way. But you're a boomer. Oh, the boomers, I see. The boomers who paid for your student loan. The boomers who subsidized your life. The boomers, your parents, who put a roof over your head, clothes on your back, food in your mouth. Those are the boomers. I don't disrespect the generation that came before mine. Do you? I respect them. I learn from them. I want to hear what they have to say. Unfortunately, with obviously some exceptions, that's not what we're seeing and hearing today. You're just all wrong. You don't know what you're doing. You're being out-ratioed. Oh, these words are just fantastic. Look how many followers you have. Nothing to do with substance, integrity, ethics, morality, philosophy. Here's nothing. Zero. And so you have stories like this from Mediaite. Dan Abrams, you should be ashamed of yourself. You really should. David Smith goes off on Trump with Theo Von. He's totally divided his base. David Smith is a low IQ comedian who became famous because Joe Rogan kept platforming him. You remember Joe Rogan, don't you? He finally found his niche with the UFC, finally found his niche as a podcaster. Before that, he was doing dumb shows on TV. Now he's a genius. Wow, he's really cool. He smokes pot and, Fuentes, he's not a Holocaust denier. He just wants to questioning how many Jews were murdered during the Holocaust. Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah. Okay. And he's on with Theo Von. Who the hell's Theo Von? Another phony, a comedian. This whole cabal. They interview each other. They promote each other. You want to know why? With a younger generation? Not all younger people. We have young men and women in the military. It's all volunteer. Young men and women who are cops and firefighters, and I got that. I'm not talking about them. I'm talking about the whiners and the complainers who vote for people like Mamdani. I'm talking about that. They listen to these literal bums who are getting rich selling bigotry and racism and anti-Semitism, stupidity, who know nothing about our real history. Nothing. Zero. We're going to counter this. We're going to counter this. We're countering it now on this program, on my TV show, and we're going to counter this more. Don't get me wrong. We're going to keep our eye on the Democrats and the Marxist Islamists. We're going to keep our eye on what we need to keep our eye on. But this is the 250th anniversary of the founding of this country, and we have an obligation. We old-timers, We have an obligation. All right. We're going to talk about Iran when we come back. Day 10 of the effort of the Iranian people trying to free themselves from an Islamist Nazi regime. We'll be right back. This segment of the podcast is exclusively sponsored by Pure Talk. Pure Talk offers great coverage and can save your family money on your wireless bill every single month. Go to puretalk.com to find the plan that's right for you. Thank you again for listening, and thank you so much for this sponsorship, Pure Talk.
He's here. He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Hello, America. Mark Levin here. Our number, 877-381-3811, 877-381-3811. I'm You see, with age does come perspective. You have a regime in Iran that's been there around 60 years. The blood on the hands of that regime, from one Ayatollah to the next, is just horrendous. The people in Persia are more Western than they are Middle Eastern. It's just the nature of the culture. They were more educated, formally educated, than all the countries around it except for Israel. These Islamists are a throwback to the 7th century. They're barbarians. Some of them wear suits. Some of them are smooth talkers. But they're fundamentalists. They're ideologues. And they understand the weakness of the West. The weakness of the West is what you and I consider strengths. Free speech, freedom of association, open societies. But when you're part of an ideology, I don't care if it's religious or political, that is, Islamist or Marxist, you use these Western belief systems, the Enlightenment. You use the beneficence of one people to another against Western society, against our country, the United States of America. This is what I mean when I write, and I've explained it, about the incompatibility of Marxism and Islamism with Americanism. It's not about affordability. It's about survivability. It's not about affordability. It's about survivability. $250 years, 1776. The Tea Party was the year before. All the people who've lost everything, their lives even, all the people creating the greatest nation the world has ever known. And then we have these 7th century barbarians who teach not how to get along with other people, diversity, and so forth, not how to coexist. They teach how to destroy, how to poison, how to conquer. With the ideology of Marxism, born in the 1800s, but even before Marx, Hegelism, born before that. An ideology that has demonstrated that it's a ridiculous ideology. It is a preposterous ideology. Treating human beings as non-entities. talking in slogans and generalities about equality and now equity, community. They want you to feel warm and fuzzy. They want you to think that they'll take all the nastiness and negativity out of your lives that you're experiencing as a result of capitalism. They'll fix that for you. They haven't fixed it anywhere on the face of the earth. Nowhere. They've done the opposite. Complete opposite. But they're not taught this in K through 12. They're not taught this in college. They're not taught this in the broader media in America. And they're certainly not taught it by podcasters. Our generation needs to do more. We cannot rely on the next generation. This generation has a responsibility. You and me, parents and grandparents. We cannot allow our children and grandchildren to be victimized by these ideologies, to be brainwashed by these ideologies. We've got to take back the public square, wherever it is. We've got to take it back. We have individuals in our generation who are diabolical, evil, saboteurs. We have a political party that has never embraced Americanism, the Democrat Party. Hostile since after the founding. Hostile to our belief systems. You know, one of the great things about Abraham Lincoln, and there were many, was his constant reference to the Declaration of Independence during the worst war in American history. American fighting American, American killing American. And he said, and I paraphrase, a nation that is founded on God-given unalienable rights, on eternal truths, a nation that is founded on the belief of equality among human beings, cannot let stand this scourge of slavery. And yet, he said, in fact, I will quote this quote directly. Hold on there. I will quote this directly, if I can find it, which I can't right now, of course. So I will paraphrase it. It's on the back of my book, Liberty and Tyranny. And what he basically says is this. Here we have two peoples. One claims property rights in another man, and the other claims property rights in no man. Both claim to be fighting for liberty. Both pray to the same God. And yet they both can't be right. Can they? Over and over again, he would reference the Constitution too, but especially the Declaration of Independence. People attack Thomas Jefferson all the time, a slave owner. Many of these men knew it was wrong. They knew it was wrong. And several of them, upon their death, freed their slaves. In the context of today, that's not good enough, is it? Of course, there's slavery all throughout Africa. There's slavery in communist China. There's slavery all throughout the Arab Middle East. Our new friends, Qatar, is a slave state. Saudi Arabia is a slave state. But we Americans hold ourselves to a higher standard, don't we? Jefferson was a young man in his young 30s when he wrote the first draft of the Declaration of Independence. And in that draft, he condemned slavery. But some of the states said they could not support the Declaration unless that phrase was removed. They're beginning a horrendous war with the most powerful military force on the planet, Britain. They removed it. Because they said, first things first, we will not live, we will not survive if we are not united. Clarence Thomas has made the point many times. He's a great man, Clarence Thomas. Made the point many times that if there had not been a United States, a Declaration of Independence, which he holds very dear, there would never have been a Constitution. There would never have been a civil war to put an end to slavery in all the colonies. In all the colonies. That slavery would have persisted for God knows how long. Perhaps not long at all, but we don't know. In the states that practiced it. I don't know of another country, and I could be wrong, but off the top of my head, I don't know of another country in all of humanity that fought an all-out civil war with massive casualties. In the case of the United States, over 700,000 people died in a nation of 24 million people. I don't know of another nation on the face of the earth since the beginning of humanity that ever did such a thing. Not one. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
If your credit card balance is freaking you out after all the holiday spending, I have something that can save you money right now. Cut your cell phone bill in half by switching to Pure Talk Saver Plan. Just $20 a month for unlimited talk, text, and 3 gigs of high-speed data on Pure Talk's super-fast nationwide 5G network. As a veteran-led company that cares about giving back to those who serve, if you're active or former military or a first responder, you'll save an additional 20% every single month. The easiest way to free up cash flow is to reduce your monthly recurring bills. Start with cutting overpriced wireless and switching to my wireless company. Go to puretalk.com/Levin, Levin, and make the switch today in as little as 10 minutes. Again, talk, text, and data just $20 a month. That's puretalk.com/Levin, Levin, and you'll save an additional 50% off your first month. Pure Talk is America's wireless company. Liberty and Tyranny was not my first bestseller. I think it was my third. But this is the book that helped launch the Tea Party movement. And it sold over 1.5 million copies. I think the best-selling conservative book in decades. And it's still out there selling, Liberty and Tyranny. The second biggest book that is sold, the conservative book in decades, is American Marxism, 1.4 million copies. And this is what Lincoln said in 1864, near the end of the Civil War. We all declare for liberty, but in using the same word, we do not all mean the same thing. With some, the word liberty may mean for each man to do as he pleases with himself and the product of his labor, while with others, the same word may mean for some men to do as they please with other men and the product of other men's labor. Here are two not only different but incompatible things, called by the same name, liberty. And it follows that each of these things is, by the respective parties, called by two different and incompatible names, liberty and tyranny. I named this book Liberty and Tyranny before I found a quote. Now, why am I talking about all this? Number one, it's important as a general matter. But number two, back to Mamdani. Listen to what he says. The relevant part. With some, the word liberty may mean for each man to do as he pleases with himself. That's you and me. And the product of his labor. That's you and me. While with others, the same word may mean for some men to do as they please with other men. And the product of other men's labor. He's defining slavery there. Marxism is all about slavery. Enslaving the people. Enslaving we the people to work not for a community, but a government. A government. A free society is a community. A government is not a community. A government is a relative handful of people who rule. Some of them rule properly, most of them don't. And we know that when it comes to communist regimes, none of them do. None of them. Again, with some, the word liberty may mean for each man to do as he pleases with himself and the product of his own labor. That's capitalism. While with others, the same word may mean for some men to do as they please with other men and the product of other men's labor. That is Marxism, socialism, the Democrat Party, Mamdani, and all the rest of it. We'll be right back. If your credit card balance is freaking you out after all the holiday spending, I have something that can save you money right now. Cut your cell phone bill in half by switching to Pure Talk Saver Plan. Just $20 a month for unlimited talk, text, and 3 gigs of high-speed data on Pure Talk's super-fast nationwide 5G network. As a veteran-led company that cares about giving back to those who serve, if you're active or former military or a first responder, you'll save an additional 20% every single month. The easiest way to free up cash flow is to reduce your monthly recurring bills. Start with cutting overpriced wireless and switching to my wireless company. Go to puretalk.com/Levin, Levin, and make the switch today in as little as 10 minutes. Again, talk, text, and data just $20 a month. That's puretalk.com/Levin, Levin, and you'll save an additional 50% off your first month. Pure Talk is America's wireless company.
Where Americans meet to defend liberty and defeat tyranny. Call the Mark Levin Show now at 877-381-3811.
The people in Iran are fighting for their freedom. They're now fighting for their lives. Everybody who's in the street. Every single person in the street. Children, teenagers, young adults, middle-aged, the elderly, the infirm, men, women, girls, boys. If they don't succeed, the Islamo-Nazi regime in Tehran will succeed, and they'll hunt down every single one of them and kill them and torture them. Yes, experience is important. Age is important. Knowledge is important. We would not have won the Revolutionary War without France. Period. The Battle of Yorktown was the big battle. We would not have won that battle had the French Navy not shown up to confront the British Navy. And at his side through much of the Revolutionary War, George Washington had Lafayette, a military genius who on his own volunteered to help the Americans, the colonists. So significant was what France did that it would ultimately cause France to go broke. To go broke. I guess the French were globalists, huh, Mr. Producer? I wonder if they were neocons. You see how useless these terms are? Utterly pointless and absurd. You must be a globalist. Well, what does that mean? What does that mean? I don't even know what it means. You must be a neocon. I know what they mean by that. A Jew. It's okay. I got it. It's all figured out. We know what they mean. There are no neocons anymore. They've all passed away. Neoconservatives were people who used to be liberal Democrats. And then in the late 50s and 60s, particularly with the rise of the Reaganites and Reagan himself, and these strong-on-defense Republicans, not interventionists, not quote-unquote globalists, realists. Pragmatic thinking. They switched to the Republican Party. Those were the neoconservatives. Tucker Carlson's father. I don't believe he switched to the Republican Party, but he was a Democrat, like the neocons, and he joined the Reagan administration, and I believe he was the head of Voice of America. I met that man twice. He was a good and decent man. Very pro-American, very pro-Israel, by the way. The Foundation for the Defense of Democracies. Ridiculed by the neo-fascist woke right. Ridiculed by Carlson. The chairman of the board for many years was his father. I'm not doing this to attack his father. I'm doing it to celebrate his father, to celebrate him. Not attack him, to celebrate him. Globalism means nothing. It's just a word that the dummies throw around. Neocon means nothing today. It's just a word that the dummies throw around. This is how they want to debate. Hey, you want to debate me? No, I'm not going to debate people where I have to actually defend our position in World War II. I'm not going to actually debate people who believe Jews are the cause of all problems in the world. Well, I don't debate the Klan. I don't debate Nazis. I don't debate white supremacists and people who are no different than them today. There's nothing to debate. I don't promote them. I don't platform them. There's smart people out there who need to be heard, many of whom are not. Those are the people who need to be heard, in my opinion. Or they're people in government, in the Democrat Party, who are destroying this country. Those are the people who need to be debated. But if you're a fat ass sitting behind a microphone with a stupid camera in your nostril, just spouting off the most outrageous crap in the world, what's the point of that? You must be a coward. No, not in the least. I've debated over my lifetime hundreds and hundreds of people. And worse yet, when you attack my family, my stepson, and you lie about him, he's a great American patriot. He was serving as a top advisor to the ambassador of Israel, a great man, Mike Huckabee. At the appointment of the President of the United States, a great man. If I'm on the stage with you, I'm going to beat the crap out of you. I'm not going to debate you. And trust me, I know how to do it. We Philly boys do know how to do that. Just making a point. President Trump at the Kennedy Center this morning, talking to the Republicans. Cut one, Mr. Producer, go.
So together we had 12 months of unprecedented success in 2025, and now we're going to make history and break records with the epic midterm victory that we're going to pull off. It just doesn't seem to happen for people that win the presidency. It's an amazing phenomenon. You know, you win the presidency, and we sure as hell are having a successful presidency, I will say that. But even if it's a successful presidency, there's been nothing like what we're doing. We had a very good day 2 days ago, too. But even if it's successful, they don't win. I don't know what it is. There's something psychological, like you vote against. You can win by a lot. We won every swing state. We won the popular vote by millions. We won everything. But they say that when you win the presidency, you lose the midterm. So you're all brilliant people. Most of you are in this business longer than me. That makes me smarter than you. Because look where I am, right? No, it doesn't. But I wish you could explain to me what the hell's going on with the mind of the public, because we have the right policy. They don't. They have a horrible policy. They do stick together. They're violent. They're vicious. You know, they're vicious people. And they stick together like glue. They don't have a couple of the people that we have. A couple of people, not too many.
Mm-hmm. Cut two, go.
Because if we don't win the midterms...
Important, listen to
it's just going to be... I mean, they'll find a reason to impeach me. I'll get impeached. We don't impeach them. You know why? Because they're meaner than we are. We should have impeached Joe Biden for 100 different things. They are mean and smart. But fortunately for you, they have horrible policy. They can be smart as can be. But when they want open borders, when they want, as I said, men and women's sports, when they want transgender for everyone, bring your kids in, we're going to change the sex of your child. Just send them our way. In some cases, like in Minnesota, they don't even tell the parents. Is that right? And nobody believes it when I say it. I think we have 6 states. Nobody, am I correct? Okay, Tom Emmer said yes, so. But it's true.
Cut three, go.
In California, they not only don't have voter ID, but if an official at the voting booths, which they don't have, by the way, because it's all mail, if an official, a voting official, even asks somebody for voter ID, sir, would like to see your identification. Do you come from our country? They put him in jail for tampering with the election. Okay? We got to straighten this out before it gets too crazy. California is more corrupt than any place. California is more corrupt than Minnesota. And I won Minnesota. Well, Tom's going, I think so. Well, it's close. It can't be proportionately, probably nothing's more corrupt, right?
Cut four, go.
They always call me a dictator. Nobody's worse than Obama and the people that surrounded Biden. Not Biden. I don't think it was Biden. He didn't know what the hell was going on, okay? The election was rigged. He had no idea what happened. He still doesn't. The auto pen. And by the way, you want to make a big deal out of the auto pen. The auto pen was your president because most of the things were signed by auto pen. And you're not allowed to do that. I signed very little. Now I just sign everything because it's just so crazy.
Mm-hmm. On that auto pen issue, that's not just a line by the president, and I actually spoke to him about this on Friday at Mar-a-Lago, which is this. The Constitution requires the president to sign legislation. That would be major acts of a presidency, appointments, major positions. It's required. In fact, I remember during the Obama presidency, they literally had to send a jet overseas where he was for him to sign a budget bill. You're not supposed to use the auto pen, and there's a big reason for it. The president is the head of the executive branch. no law can be instituted without his signature. And the idea that you could use an auto pen or somebody on behalf of a president, or even worse, somebody claiming to do so on behalf of a president, or even worse, somebody doing it without the president knowing, is a horrendous constitutional problem. And so it's not a joke. It's not a throwaway line. It is incredibly, incredibly serious. And they do need to get to the bottom of what is what here and make sure it never happens again. That's how lawless the Biden regime was. In addition to lawfare, the destruction of the Department of Justice and the justice system, the corruption of our judiciary, trying to take out a president, former president, a candidate for president, a private citizen, Donald Trump. And then this auto pen stuff. And the cover-up of the press working with the Democrat Party. We've never seen anything like this in our history. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
If your credit card balance is freaking you out after all the holiday spending, I have something that can save you money right now. Cut your cell phone bill in half by switching to Pure Talk Saver Plan. Just $20 a month for unlimited talk, text, and 3 gigs of high-speed data on Pure Talk's super-fast nationwide 5G network. As a veteran-led company that cares about giving back to those who serve, if you're active or former military or a first responder, you'll save an additional 20% every single month. The easiest way to free up cash flow is to reduce your monthly recurring bills. Start with cutting overpriced wireless and switching to my wireless company. Go to puretalk.com/Levin, Levin, and make the switch today in as little as 10 minutes. Again, talk, text, and data just $20 a month. That's puretalk.com/Levin, Levin, and you'll save an additional 50% off your first month. Pure Talk is America's wireless company. Where does the time go? It goes fast. But we never have enough time, do we? In fact, I came across an article. It's just kind of out there. They always do these things, these lists. I'm not a big fan of these lists, but let me share this one with you. As you can see, it's in a newspaper. What I'll do from time to time is I'll actually buy newspapers. And because things on the internet are not always in the newspaper. Here we have from the Washington Times, fuller, more balanced picture on presidents. Survey ranks Washington first, Biden last. By Valerie Richardson. She's a great reporter, by the way, a great writer. Presidential rankings tend to reward those on the left and penalize those on the right, which is where Prager University comes in. And I'm so happy that our man Dennis, he's still paralyzed. I'm so happy that he's communicating smarter than ever. Such a brave man, really. My wife keeps in touch as much as she can, as much as they want, with his wife. I should also tell you that I've been in regular touch with Victor Davis Hanson, who's a friend of mine. I didn't time that right, did I? We'll get back to this after the break. I want to go through it with you and see what you think. We'll be right back.
He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Yellow. Hello, everybody. Mark Levin here. Yes, we'll take calls tonight. Our number is 877-381-3811. 877-381-3811. So as I was saying, till I was interrupted by myself, here in the Washington Times, Prager University surveys ranking presidents. And so presidential rankings tend to reward, as I was pointing out, Valerie Richardson's piece, those on the left and penalize those on the right, which is why PragerU comes in, where they come in. The conservatives' education and media outlets said it sought to provide a fuller, more balanced picture with its first presidential ranking survey ever, using a flexible methodology and including scholars, historians, media figures, politicians. How come they never contact me? What's that all about? It's actually quite weird. I've got 10 number one New York Times best-selling books, and I talk about history all the time, but it's okay. Look, I've got you. That's what matters. For decades, most presidential rankings have come from a narrow, left-leaning perspective, they say. Our presidential ranking survey sets out to broaden the conversation by inviting voices and viewpoints that are often ignored. So let's see. There were no surprises at the very top. President Washington, Abraham Lincoln, ranked number 1 and 2. They almost always are, even in surveys of left-leaning professors. But on their heels was a president who rarely cracks the top 10 in their surveys, Ronald Reagan. Conservative esteem for Reagan is very high. His average is close to Lincoln's ranking. According to one respondent, Reagan was a visionary whose moral clarity helped usher in the end of the Cold War. You know, on Sunday's Life, Liberty, and Levin, I did a full hour with Newt Gingrich. And he spent a lot of time praising President Reagan and President Trump. But he lived and battled during the Reagan Revolution until he got elected to the House of Representatives later. Well, actually, he got elected before, but it doesn't really matter. He got elected around the time of the Reagan Revolution, if not dead in the middle of it. I also came to the fore during the Reagan Revolution and was part of the Reagan Revolution in 1976 in Pennsylvania, 1980. You know, we boomers. There's no more Soviet Union thanks to the boomers. Whatever age group that is. Behind third-ranked Reagan was Calvin Coolidge, another conservative, followed by Thomas Jefferson, Dwight Eisenhower, James Monroe, James Madison, John Adams, and Theodore Roosevelt. Well, let me stop there. No wonder they didn't include me. There is no way that James Monroe should be in front of James Madison. That's number one. Dwight Eisenhower, I think, could be in the top 10 or 12, but there's no way he should be in front of James Madison. John Adams, here we go. I don't think he was a particularly great president. He was a great, great founder. Great. In many respects. I don't think he was a particularly great president. Certainly not in the bottom half, but I don't know that he'd be in the top 10, I can tell you that. And again, Eisenhower, I think, was a very good president, but a better general. I don't know that I've had him that high up either, and certainly not Theodore Roosevelt. Theodore Roosevelt, if you read some of my books, you'll know that he was quite the progressive. He ran as a Progressive Party candidate, third party candidate. They called it Bull Moose, but its official name was the Progressive Party. He wrote pieces for, back then, the New Republic, which was quite left-wing. I don't really know if it even exists today. I don't much pay attention to it, but back then it was considered very, crazy left. And he wrote for that. And he embraced a lot of this so-called populism, economic populism. And unfortunately, a lot of the populists out there, and some of you may identify as populists, were actually radical leftists, socialists. In the 1870s, shortly after Marx's death. And they called themselves progressives. They were American Marxists, and this is in my book, among others, American Marxism. I'm not a big fan of Theodore Roosevelt. Did he do some things I agree with? Absolutely. But I'm not a big fan. Meanwhile, modern Democrats tended to fare poorly. Bringing up the rear was Joe Biden, and he should have, who ranked 42nd Behind perennial basement dwellers, Andrew Johnson, number 40, James Buchanan, number 41, and they were all terrible, absolutely terrible. But landing in the bottom 10 were Lyndon Johnson, Barack Obama, and Jimmy Carter, and I think they are in the bottom 10. Now, for the left, Lyndon Johnson was a great hero because he was a massive centralized government socialist. I get it. But they'll talk about the 64 and 65 civil rights bills. But they won't talk about what Johnson did while he was majority leader of the Senate and led these filibusters against civil rights movements. And I talked about the 1957 civil rights bill that Eisenhower, who really believed in civil liberties and civil rights, he had to water down because Johnson went into his office and met with him. He was the majority leader in the Senate and told him, look, you need to change this bill. You need to take the teeth out of this bill. There can't be a lot of federal enforcement in this bill because a lot of my guys are going to filibuster it, and I'm going to let them filibuster it, and I'm going to support their filibuster. So water this damn thing down, and you'll have my support. So Eisenhower despised Johnson. And that's what he did. Why did Johnson do that? Because he knew he wanted to run for president. And he knew he couldn't be seen as a Southern segregationist, which he was his entire life. His entire life. In the 64 Civil Rights Act, more Republicans in the House and Senate voted for it than Democrats. 65 Civil Rights Act, which we call the Voting Rights Act, same thing. Same thing. The vast majority of Republicans have voted for and supported every single Civil Rights Act that's ever been promoted and passed or even failed in the history of the United States. Democrats can't say the same thing, quite the contrary. Modern Democrats viewed more favorably included John Kennedy, Bill Clinton, both of whom received higher rankings than Gerald Ford, and Richard Nixon. I think Gerald Ford was pretty much a very nice man, a good man, and a nothing burger. Nixon had some really extraordinary successes and some extraordinary failures. That's the truth. The survey left out William Henry Harrison and Garfield, James Garfield, because they didn't live long enough, that's why. Also not included was Donald Trump, whose tenure is ongoing and therefore cannot yet be judged. When it's all said and done, I'm not going to say anything. I can tell already he's going to be judged as one of the truly greats. 155 respondents were asked to rate every president on a scale 0 to 10. And they were keeping in mind 4 guidelines. And so be it. What were they? I'm trying to find them, actually. It doesn't really matter. But that's what they came up with. So my vote would have been a little different with some of the top 10, but not the top 3, that's for sure. Washington, Lincoln, and Reagan. Now, the neo-fascist woke right, they hate Washington, they hate Lincoln, and they hate Reagan. Did you know that? The Catarlsons and their ilk, oh yeah. They even hate Churchill, one of the greatest men, one of the greatest public statesmen to ever live in world history. That's how sick they are. There's a very interesting piece in The Tablet you might want to check out by a man named Michael Durant, who I have great admiration for. And I agree with about 85, maybe 90% of the article. And I certainly agree with the guts of it. I don't have time to get into it. It's a very long piece, so that may cause some of the Gen Zers not to want to read it. I think one of the failures we have in our society is people don't want to read. Unless it's on their iPhone, they're not going to read it. They're just not going to read it. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Here we be at, to be more precise. I want you to listen to what Adam Schiff said yesterday about the president liberating the people of Venezuela, or attempting to here, depending on the outcome, and protecting the people of the United States at the same time. I want you to listen to Adam Schiff and think about what is he trying to do here and who does he sound like. Okay? Give it a shot. Cut 8, go.
They say they're going to run the country now, that we're going to run Venezuela. And the reason they have been oddly transparent about for the first time, it's about oil. It's about oil. It's about the oil wealth of Venezuela, which has reportedly some of, if not the largest oil reserves in the world. What we seem to see is Donald Trump's campaign promise to the oil industry that if they spend hundreds of millions or $1 billion on his campaign, he would richly reward them.
All right, hold on. Oil companies can't spend money on campaigns. You understand, folks? Let alone $1 billion. The guy's such a fraud and a phony. Go ahead.
But in terms of that MAGA base that you were talking about, Lawrence, that he promised no more foreign wars, no more nation building, this is a big militaristic middle finger to the MAGA base by Donald Trump. We are now very much back in regime.
Thank you, and no more from him. Who does he sound like, Mr. Producer? Catarleson, right? See, ladies and gentlemen, the neo-fascist woke Reich, and I say Reich, R-E-I-C-H, the neo-fascist woke Reich, and I don't say that in a way to create hysterics and so forth. I say that because it's accurate. It's an accurate description. It's the right nomenclature. What's happening here? These are isolationists who do not believe in the superpower of the United States. Who reject. They rejected Reagan, the leftists, and now Reagan is attacked by the neo-fascists, as a matter of fact. You'll be a neocon and a globalist when you're trying to defend the continental United States and the American territories. So Schiff sounds exactly like them. No more foreign wars. First of all, the only war you fight in terms of military is a foreign war, right? That's number one, so that's kind of... guy's illiterate. Number two, peace through strength. That's what the president has said. And by no more foreign wars, he means don't start any endless wars. It doesn't mean you don't take any military action. We're not at war with Venezuela. We took military action. We're not at war. There is no war between the two countries. The guy's an imbecile, but he exists to be a Benedict Arnold. That's what he is. He's a Benedict Arnold, just like Catarleson is a Benedict Arnold. And all his followers and his little club of morons and miscreants and malcontents. And I wanted to play that for you because it underscores the point. Now, here is Marjorie Trader Greene. Now, why do they keep going to Marjorie Trader Greene? She's an absolute irrelevancy in every respect. She has no following by left, right, or in between. She's a mental midget, may I say. Low IQ. It's the truth. Now she's a saboteur doing everything she can to try and kneecap the president of the United States. It won't work because she's a munchkin. It won't work. It won't matter. She won't even be a footnote to a footnote to a footnote in history. But the media promote her because she's a nut who keeps attacking the president. And they try and build her up in order to knock her down. When the time comes, she's a creation. She's a fabrication. Cut 9, go.
Again, from an America First standpoint, Caitlin, Venezuela belongs to the Venezuelan people.
Now, that's interesting. Venezuela belongs to the Venezuelan people. But when the regime in Venezuela is flooding our country with toxic, deadly drugs that are killing American citizens, then what do? Low IQ, mental midget, then what do? In her view, America First means being a punching bag. In her view, America First means any one of our enemies is free to kill our people with drugs. Any one of our enemies is free to send gang members, criminals, into our country. That's right. And don't do anything about it. Don't do anything about it. What would she have done about the Cuban Missile Crisis? When Khrushchev was putting missiles in Cuba, 90 miles off Florida, to hit the continental United States. What would she have done then? A globalist, forever wars. She's a walking, talking billboard. That's all she is. She's got the IQ of a cucumber. That's it. All these people do. They're moronic. That's not America First. Yes, it is America First. You loser. So why is Caitlin Collins platforming her? Because he's a left-wing schmuck. That's why. May I say, with all due respect, of which there's none. Of which there's none. Then we have Rand Paul. Rand Paul. Now the kooks, the woke right, they love Rand Paul because he's like his daddy. A libertarian whack job. Now look, I have libertarian leanings when it comes to economic matters. But when it comes to interpreting the Constitution, it's the Constitution that matters. And when it comes to defending our country, I don't see pacifism as a defense posture. Cut 11, go.
You know, our founding fathers debated this. They debated whether or not the initiation of war, the declaration of war, should begin with Congress, with the people, with the people's representatives, or whether or not it should be left to one person. This was a long and very public debate. It's in the Federalist Papers, the discussion. They worried about allowing too much power to gravitate to the executive.
Now, what's interesting about this, the Federalist Papers are important. They are the representation of the people who wrote them to get the Constitution passed. I read to you last night the draft of the Constitution where the word make war for Congress was in there, and they debated it and took it out and replaced it with declare war. There's Mr. Libertarian who doesn't even know his Constitution from toilet paper.
The Mark Levin Show, live and national at 877-381-3811.
These shows just fly by, in my humble opinion. We're working every day studiously on getting everything in place, studios, equipment, and contracts to get our podcast ready. And we will have it ready. You know, I never fail at something I really put my mind to be perfectly honest with you. That doesn't mean I haven't failed. I certainly have. And I think it makes you a more motivated person in many respects. It does me. It's like if you play baseball and you strike out, you get back up there and say, I don't want to do that again. And all of you can, recognize that sort of thing in your own lives and so forth and so on. But this is something we're going to try. Doesn't make it, it doesn't make it. But we're going to do it the right way in terms of showing respect to the American people and my audience, which I try to do right here. I don't have to pretend I'm 19 years old and smoke pot, which I've never smoked, or talk with a bunch of curse words, which I don't do. My attitude is, I don't want my family to hear that stuff. I don't want my family treated to that kind of stuff. And I'm not going to treat you, my broader family, to any of that kind of stuff either. You want to hear it? There's plenty of this crap all over the place. I don't believe in podcast pornography, which is what I call it, to attract audiences. And they attract them all over the world, too. The lowest of the low. That's how they get paid. Let's jump into the gene pool, shall we? Sister Maria, Chicago, Illinois, the great WLS, home of the Pope. How are you, Sister Maria?
Oh, I'm doing just fine, and it's a great honor to be able to speak with you this evening.
Thank you so much. Likewise.
Also, my questions are in two areas of how to think legally while at the same time allowing freedom of religion. Okay? And the first one has to do with, do we have criteria for what we use when we're sworn into public office? Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Can I put my hand as a Franciscan on the rules of St. Francis and St. Clare instead of the Bible?
Nope.
If I'm no religion, can I decide my favorite novel or poetry book that influenced me? Can I put my hand on the Book of Mormon if I'm a Mormon?
Mm-hmm.
So what kind of criteria do we have?
It's a brilliant question, actually. And it depends on the law, doesn't it? What the law requires. And then they would challenge the law. You're talking about the Quran as an example and so forth, which is what Mamdani did. And I'm sure if he went to court and went all the way to the Supreme Court, they would say he could do that. To answer your question.
Okay. So
now, you don't have to agree with it. I don't have to agree with it. But that's what they would say. It really wouldn't bother me so much, to be perfectly honest with you, if he had been assimilated into Western society, if he had been assimilated into the Enlightenment, if he embraced the fact that this nation was founded not on the Quran, but the Bible, which is why the Bible is the book of choice in all, I think, every state, and certainly at the federal level. The fact of the matter, and as I wrote about this in Liberty and Tyranny, you don't have to be Jewish or Christian to appreciate the fact that you're free to live in this country and practice your faith unmolested because of the Judeo-Christian value system, because of the Enlightenment that was embraced by the founders. You don't have to be anything. But the fact of the matter is this society is the way this society is because of those two faiths and because of the philosophers that the founders and the framers relied on. And they also relied on the Bible. Sister Maria, you need to call more often. I find you very, very interesting.
Well, I have a second question, too.
Yes, ma'am.
If I'm swearing on the Quran, and even the Supreme Court will allow that, what does this say about my embracing or not embracing the primacy of Sharia law over our laws in the United States?
Well, that's the big question, isn't it? And the question is, if you're an Islamist as opposed to a reformist, you are not swearing legitimately to support the Constitution of the United States. You know exactly what you're doing. You know exactly what you're doing. To answer your question bluntly, and most people wouldn't. So that's my take.
That's what I was afraid of.
Well, that's my view. I mean, look, I'm just reacting to what they tell us, what the imams tell us. In fact, what Mamdani tells us, what his father tells us and his mother tells us. I'm just reacting to what all the extremists tell us. That their goal is not coexistence, but...
In Texas, they've got that problem of wanting to put Sharia law above our laws.
That's correct. You're 100% right. This is why I've written and I've said that Islam is incompatible with our constitutional republic. Marxism is incompatible with our constitutional republic. And together, as they have fused, and I wrote about this in my book on power most recently, it is a very, very dangerous and powerful combination of forces. And you can see it has a foothold, and it is growing, in not just in our culture, but literally now, it's manifesting in our politics. All right, Sister Maria, you're terrific. Will you call again, please?
You and I are on the same track, except your legal mind is much more advanced than mine.
Yes, but your faith mind is much more advanced than mine. So see that? Together, look how terrific this is.
Together we make a team.
There you go. You are terrific. You call again, okay, please?
I certainly will. God bless and have a blessed New Year.
You too. God bless you, my friend. What a sweetheart. Smart, smart, smart. She's on to it. She gets it. I think all of you do. Robert, Santa Clara, California, the great KSFO. How are you?
I'm doing great, Mark. We have these Pied Pipers of the left, the radical egalitarians, and, of course, they're going through the dialect of what? Socialist Fluffingtons, Islamists. It's not compatible with the Madisonian and the Bill of Rights dialectic.
No, it's not.
Based off, 10% private property rights. It's so funny how you got these massive people being able to win a 51%, simple election and a simple majority, and they think they can just abolish private property rights. Vicky Palladino has it. She needs to stand up, and everybody in New York is because we see it happening there. But it's all over. The lady in Seattle, Wilson, and
slow down. You're talking too fast. Who is Vicky Palladino?
This stuff. We got to fight this stuff.
All right. Thank you for your call, my friend. Do we know who that is? You're in New York, Mr. Producer. She's pretty good, right? All right. Robert, you should call again, too. Very, very good. We have very good callers tonight. We have very good callers lately, period. We'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Let's go to Big Pine Key, Florida. WSKY, our great affiliate there. It really is a great affiliate. And go to Dave. Dave, how you be, Dave?
You too, Mark Levin. How are you? Long-time listener, first-time caller.
Thank you.
My question and my confusion is actually every Republican, but the majority was Trump, Nazi, Hitler, Nazi, and they do that to every Republican. But has anybody brought up the fact Mamdani swore on his opening statement at the lectern, I ran as a socialist Democrat. Mm-hmm. I will govern as a socialist Democrat. Nazi literally means
National Socialist Party. No, you're right. And the radical Islamists and the neo-Nazis that I've been talking about at length for some time now, as well as the Marxist Islamists, there's overlay there. Absolute overlay there. And there's no doubt about it. No question about it. And they're standing the Marxist, who was Bernie Sanders, and they're standing the Marxist Islamist, who's Mamdani. And this is why I always say elections are crucially important, and voting is crucially important, but even more than that, principles. They're the most important. The most important. Because if you don't have the right kind of society and the right kind of culture and the right kind of government, you can vote till you're blue in the face. You can vote till you're blue in the face. Thank you for your call, Dave. Good call. Appreciate it. Harry Enton, as you know, is the data analyst over at the Constipated News Network. So I'm curious to know, where do Republicans stand on this issue of Venezuela? Cut 14, go.
Republicans divided about what the president's done in Venezuela? Let me be very clear. There is no rift in the Republican Party.
So wait right there. There's never been a rift in the Republican Party and MAGA when it comes to bombing the nuclear sites in Iran and supporting Israel. There's never been a rift in the Republican Party and MAGA when it comes to what the president has done in Venezuela. There is no rift. There are people who are trying to drive 1%, 2%, 3% of us into the dirt to elect the Mamdanis and the Sanders and the AOCs. They're the people who want to burn down the society and start it all over again. Go ahead.
Folks like Marjorie Taylor Greene and Thomas Massie are quite skeptical of this. They are very much in the minority. What are we talking about here? Well, why don't we just talk the GOP on the U.S. military ousting Maduro? Ipsos, 65% support, 6% opposed. How about the Washington Post poll? 74% support, just 10% opposed. If you look among 2024 Trump supporters, we're talking about 80% support. The vast majority of Republicans are with Donald Trump on this issue. Massey and Marjorie Taylor Greene are very much in the minority. Very few Republicans are with him.
You say they're with him on this issue. Do you even need those words, this issue?
No, I don't need the words, this issue, because the bottom line is this. Donald Trump has had an iron grip on that Republican base for a long period of time, and it is the same iron grip that he had 6 months ago. I know every so often people are trying to say, oh, I spot these little rifts in the Republican base. They're finally starting to break. They're starting to break from Donald Trump. It ain't happening, at least when it comes to the approval rating. Look at this. 84% 6 months ago, 85% now. You don't have to be a mathematical genius to know 85% and 84% are basically the same number. In fact, 85% is 1 point higher than 84%.
So the neo-fascist woke Reich, represented by podcasters and phony influencers, have had no effect. Why are they called influencers when they don't influence anybody? They're not influencing anybody except the same group of eyes they have on there. Many of them are from overseas countries, many of them from countries that hate us. And so they are having no influence in the Republican Party, no influence in the MAGA base, none, zero. And so in order to grift and make money, they rely on foreigners, their eyes, because the numbers don't determine when you're making money from podcasting if somebody's watching you from Botswana or Lawrenceville, Kansas. That's right. Or Lawrence, Kansas, for that matter. This is very important to understand. This is Radio Free America right here. That's what we've called it for decades. Radio Free America, where the truth shall set you free. That's what I do. Because I told you before, when I first got into this business, Brother Rush Limbaugh said, Mark, the key is to respect the intelligence of your audience. I do. They don't. We salute our armed forces, police officers, firefighters, emergency personnel, our truckers, the men and women in Ukraine. That's right, I said it. The men and women in Israel, and you, the American people. God bless you. Red-blooded Americans all. I'll see you tomorrow. Be safe. Have a great night.